Hello, Hat-Tricks fans. It's another major weekend for the Danbury Hat-Tricks as the regular season begins to wind down. They take a trip to northern New York to take on the Watertown Wolves on Thursday and the Binghamton Black Bears on Friday. I'm Wyatt Kopelman here alongside the general manager of the Hat-Tricks, Matt Voity. We welcome you into episode 20 of Hat-Tricks Weekly here inside the Hat-Tricks Lounge. Matt, hard to believe that only 11 games in the regular season remain, but you had a great weekend against HC Venom, albeit you didn't sweep the weekend, but you got 7 points and you finished it with a win. What were some of your overall takeaways with that high-scoring weekend?
I really liked the way we came out on Sunday. We had a lot of energy, and I think, we played down most of. I think what was it, Friday night. Saturday we played, down a guy, and to see the guys come out with that, pretty good energy, even though they were probably a little bit tired, and but the right attitude, the right mental space. It was really encouraging to see.
How do you believe your team responded from the loss on Saturday, in which it took that overtime defeat, didn't have to feel good, I'm sure, giving up 4 one-goal leads? What did you learn about your team and the resolve it showed Sunday?
Honestly, it's sometimes when you have a loss like that, you kind of want to see how they are the next morning. And I know I was pretty miserable, but and I don't, I always kind of try to distance myself from them as they come in, so I can just kind of walk back there and hear it as I walk back. And walking back, I really heard a lot of good sounds, and it was really encouraging. I started to feel better. There's a lot of resilience in this group, and I think you've seen it in the comeback wins. I think you've seen it in how we've had to climb out of the hole we were in. A couple months ago, there's a lot of characters, a lot of resilience, and it's really starting to show and be. They're really embracing it as who we are.
What did you tell your team in the dressing room before it went out on the ice for warm-ups on Sunday here at the Danbury Arena?
I don't remember. It was response. It was playoff mentality. If you look at these 3-3, it's kind of like a playoff series. You win the first one, lose the second one. Now you got to win the third one. And I also laid the challenge, too, of winning it the right way. That's a team that we should execute very well against, and I thought we did, especially for being on the back end of a 3-3. There really wasn't too much to say. I kind of found myself at a point where it's like just kind of a little bit of guidance here, steer the ship there, and but they were ready to come compete that day.
Is that something that you notice has changed drastically since the first half of the season, when this team would lose to perhaps HC Venom or a much stronger juggernaut in this division with the Binghamton Black Bears, the Watertown Wolves, now having kind of the drive to police itself and get ready for games, especially on a Sunday afternoon where both teams are quite tired?
Yeah, I think it's definitely come a long way. I think some of the younger guys had to learn that. I think some of the older guys too probably had to get past the frustration with the younger guys on that end of it. But I think resiliency, sometimes it is a muscle, and you have to work it, and ours wasn't really worked very well coming in, but it's come a long way. And I think the guys now feel, and I said this a couple months ago after we went through some tough wins and losses, it's like, hey guys, there's nothing that you can't come back from. There's nothing that you can't handle. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that to take root, but I think it's finally taken root, and it's a huge part of who we are.
Just a last note on that. I remember after Saturday night's overtime loss, Gonzo in the locker room said how much he thought HC Venom had played with more drive and just a greater sense of energy more consistently for 60 minutes. Did you see that change greatly going into Sunday, where this team closed the first period strong with 2 goals from Johnny, and the penalty kill did what it had to do, killing off all 7 penalties?
I think the Venom outcompete. They try to outcompete teams. I don't think it was anything. I don't think there's a drastic change from their compete on Saturday. I think our compete was the difference. I really do believe that. And I think if you look at that series, Friday and Saturday were almost identical first periods in terms of the penalties. And I just thought Saturday, after the 7-minute penalty, we kind of dipped down, and we weren't quite as, going into that penalty, quite as fired up for it. And, that could be a number of things, but it's something that these guys, again, another lesson they learned from, and they bounced back on Sunday.
You mentioned how strong the penalty kill was this weekend. Over the last 13 games, the penalty kill has been one of the best in the entire league. 60 for 65. That's almost 93%, which has just been a resounding difference from the first half of the season, which I know we talked about to great lengths. What makes this penalty kill continue to have the success it does down the last part of the regular season?
I think it's being simplified more. I think early on in the season we were running around. We did change our PK system to a diamond, obviously. For those who watch. I think we're just a little more aware of where our stick should be. I think it's calmed our feet down so we're not chasing, we're not running around. We did the flush. We were kind of chasing outside the dots and we would get caught with a seam pass. And now I think we're more right in position. I think we're learning game to game, especially the younger guys, where those seams are, where our sticks need to be, the stick detail. And I'm a little surprised by that because I honestly don't know where you get those stats. I'd love to know.
Simple calculations and arithmetic. It's not very hard to do. It's a matter of the help of FPHL website.
I was not a math guy, but but I think the number surprises me, but more just because I wasn't aware of it. But it doesn't surprise me. I don't feel like the PK's been an Achilles heel for us. I don't think it's been a problem. I think I look at the number, the PK number, and it kind of just inches up a little bit, and I'm like, but I think that number is indicative of the change in the system and the change in the mentality of the players and them embracing. Okay, we need to learn about this a little bit more than maybe we thought we had to.
Well, there's a lot of embracing of the learning for this group, a mixture of rookies, a mixture of veterans as well. And now your team with 18 points in the last 19 games. It's been a remarkable run for the Hat-Tricks as the regular season begins to wind down. And the view, of course, doesn't stay on the playoffs. It begins with pursuing games in the regular season in these last few weekends. How much of a strength do you see the penalty kill being against some of the top teams on the power play in Binghamton and Watertown this weekend, an early weekend, that is?
Well, when you get to this point in the season in the playoffs, specialty teams can be everything, really. We don't get too many penalty calls, and so your power play's really got to be on it, and your PK on those when you're down has to kill it. It's got to be 93% or better, and it can really be a game changer, momentum changer for you at this point in the year.
The Hat-Tricks, they have 2 games against the Binghamton Black Bears and the Watertown Wolves. It's an early weekend, so you take on HC Venom, 3 straight games. Talk about the timing and crunch time of the regular season. It can be maybe a stressful time, but it, of course, requires a good deal of quick turnarounds. How do you keep your group prepared? As mentioned just a minute ago, it's a mixture of younger players and older players on the short turnaround. I
think just making sure guys are rested. I think at this point in the season, you've been going since October, 5-6 days a week on the ice. Some of the pounding these guys take. We play a physical game, so that can take a toll. I think it's just making sure they're rested, make sure they're doing what's right for their body, and then managing practice, making sure it's there's cutting the fat out of it. There's not a lot of wasted time or not spending any more time out there than you need to.
How much of this time do you devote to watching film as this team rests, as opposed to running them on the ice for an hour and a half, 2 hours?
I think you're always watching film. I don't think it's necessarily any more right now. Obviously with Watertown, they've got a few new pieces, so probably watch a little bit more than normal. But I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary right now.
So it's not out of the ordinary, but the Hat-Tricks, they want to, of course, pick up 6 points against the Wolves and the Black Bears. You get a little bit of time after Friday and Saturday to regroup as well. As you play the Black Bears particularly, this is a team that you have not faced since the beginning of 2025. It's a team that has already clinched a division. Is there anything different that you think this team can do to prepare, having not seen this team in almost 11 weeks now?
Binghamton? I think our mentality going into the games, I think the games we played early on, I think our roster's got to be markedly different than the last time we played them. And I just thought our mentality going into those games was key for us. I think if we had the right mentality, ready to play structured, be patient, execute and do the little things you need to do to win, I thought we were good. It was a one goal each way. I thought when our mentality was off, I think we had that one weekend where they swept us and it wasn't pretty. I think with this group, I'm completely confident in their mental approach to the game now. I think we'll be ready for that, and I really think it's going to be, those games are going to be tight. It's going to be either way.
How well do you think your team, particularly top six forwards, Conor, McCollum, even Frankie McClendon, who had a season-high 44 saves, matches up against the Binghamton Black Bears core that has been widely viewed as one of the best in the league?
I mean, I think they've both seen that team a lot over the past couple of years. I mean, MC got a pretty steady diet of him last year, and he's had a steady diet of him this year. Frankie's familiar with those guys too, so I think they're up for the challenge. I think it's just more important about how we play in front of them.
On Friday, Conor McCollum, he got his second career shutout of the season, and it seemed like that he was getting a lot of shots. HC Venom, highly contested in terms of shots on goal this weekend. What do you believe he did particularly well to, of course, get the win, but also take that shutout and just have another strong individual performance in the books this year?
I think he was able just to take the game as it came to him. When you don't see, like Friday night, I think he saw 18 shots. That can be a tough game for a goalie, right? Especially in this league where you're normally seeing 30 plus, 35 plus. I think he did a really good job of just staying within himself, staying calm, freezing pucks when he had to freeze pucks, handling pucks the right way and handing them off to the D the right way. So, I expect more of that going forward.
And then getting to Frankie McClendon, as mentioned, the season-high 44 saves. He has the most wins in a single season since 2 seasons ago, the 2022-23 season. How do you believe he conducted himself and continued to deny good looks at the net?
I think his headspace has been really good. I think he's been positive. He's been, a little more loose than maybe he has in the past in a really good way. And I think he's just feeling really confident about his game and what he can do for us. And sometimes confidence can be everything for an athlete, and I think for him it's starting to show.
What have been the conversations like between you and him as the season's gone on and he's found more and more success? He's won in 5 straight starts now, and again this time around he had 2 weeks of rest as well.
I think the conversations have always been about just being ready to play. MC's, we've ridden him, and sometimes it can be easy to fall in the trap of I haven't played in 3 weeks, and I think he gets that there's really no excuse. You got to be ready when your number's called, and he stayed sharp. Like, he's a vet, he knows, he gets it, and when he shows up to practice, he's ready to go, and he's focusing on his game and the details he has to pay attention to, and I think it shows in those. I think it was 7-1, those 8 games, 7-0-1.
He's been good this season for the hat tricks behind Conor McCollum, who, of course, has been one of the best in the league this year. He's been right up there in the wins leaders this year next to Connor McAnanama, a goalie that the hat tricks will see this weekend up in Binghamton. And speaking of veterans in this league, Chase Harwell, he's back off the 15-day IR. He had his 4th shorthanded goal of the season on Sunday in what was a major second period for this group. How do you believe he can carry that success, and what do you believe he's bringing this team that it didn't have when he was on the 15-day IR?
Chase is, he brings speed, skill, physicality, leadership. He's kind of becoming a unique kind of player in this day and age. I think, especially on Johnny's line, I think it really kind of completes the skill set of that line with the other, with Ratty and Johnny. So it's huge to have him back. Not having him for a month was definitely, we missed him. Even though we had a good month, we still definitely missed him. And
do you believe the experimentation that you've gotten to have in working with different lines, sliding different guys in and out will pay off now that you have Chase back? And it's certainly good timing with the regular season only 11 games from being out.
Yeah, I actually thought about that a couple of weeks ago. You'd look at the lineup after a game, it's like, this isn't even the ideal lineup that we would want to have right now. It's certainly not what we would want to have in the playoffs. And I think, once things start to settle, I think Vasi comes off the IR this week. That's going to be a really good. I think it could be a really fun time for us to see what we have. Finally have guys back together and stay healthy. Pray to God, don't have to use the IR anymore. I think it's going to be a really exciting time for us.
Hat-tricks, they take on the Watertown Wolves and the Binghamton Black Bears. What do you believe is kind of the biggest thing that you're looking for this team to take, if not 6 points, at least 2 wins on the road this weekend in Watertown and in Bingo?
I think to be economical in how we play, in the sense that we're not chasing pucks, we're not chasing chances, we don't play the game overly emotional. And it doesn't necessarily mean fighting. It just maybe means trying too hard to get that cross-ice pass or forcing pucks. I think staying within our structure and executing and coming with high intensity, that's the biggest thing that I want to see. I think the physicality, all that stuff that's part of our game will be there, and I think we just have to apply how we do it.
And on the mental side, as you try and prepare your team, at least in a psychological sense, especially this team knows how difficult it can be to get a win at Watertown and anywhere against a team like Binghamton as well. How much do you emphasize this as being a playoff-like atmosphere to play in?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we've talked about the last couple of weeks, that we're getting close to playoff time, and these are, really becoming playoff games. But now, 11 games left, and where we are in the standings and, where Watertown is, it legitimately is a playoff game. And I think these guys are understanding that, and I think they're prepared for it.
Does it seem like this team has a target on its back, even with an 8-point lead on Watertown and a clinched playoff spot for the 5th straight year in this program here?
We always have a target on our back.
Always a target on their backs. The Hat-tricks, they take on the Watertown Wolves on Thursday. Puck drop is set for 7:30, and the Binghamton Black Bears on Friday night inside Binghamton at Visions Veteran Memorial Arena. Matt, it's been great to talk with you, especially as the playoff expansion here comes alive, and the Hat-tricks, of course, they want to expand into the playoffs with the most points possible. Appreciate you always joining me here in the Hat-tricks Lounge.
Thanks, Wyatt.